Good morning. Today is Monday, 23rd March 2026. And of course, we are on to the program Inside Nigeria, your breakfast show on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred Ubebo. We apologize for bringing this program a bit behind schedule. We're experiencing some technical glitches. But however, we are here now. We head up to our newspaper review corner where we have newspapers for review. And of course, Nigeria's most influential newspaper is topping the list. We move ahead to leadership newspaper, and of course, it's still a developing story on US-Israel-Iran war in the Middle East. And of course, the leading story says petrol at 1,400 naira. Labor manufacturers economists seek government intervention. Petrol at 1,400 naira. Labor manufacturers economics seek government intervention. That leading story is on page 4 of leadership newspaper today. And as we normally do, we take some excerpts from that leading story. With the pump price of petrol nearing 1,500 naira per litre amid Middle East tensions, labor unions, economists, manufacturers, and civil society groups have called for urgent government palliatives to lessen the economic burden on families and businesses. They are demanding fuel subsidies, naira-denominated crude to the Dangote refinery and public refineries, strategic petroleum reserves, expanded public transport, renewable energy incentives, and power sector reforms to counter petrol prices nearing. They say that the current pressures are fueling inflation, business closures, job losses, and hardship for households and small and medium-sized enterprises. This is as the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, has stated that Nigeria is ready to boost global oil supply to support energy security. These are excerpts from the leading story and, of course, the developing story at that on leadership newspaper. Petrol at 1,400 naira. Labor manufacturers economic seek government intervention. That story we just took some excerpts from runs on page 4 of the paper. Atop the leading story, we have state police bill will be submitted to National Assembly soon, coming from the governors. And of course, that story is on page 6 of leadership. State police bill will be submitted to National Assembly soon. France to support Nigeria with military equipment. Tinubu, Niger, bandits demand 150 million naira to stop attack on Papiri community. Northern Christian elders to Muslims, we must work together to promote peace. Katsina smart schools are for children in rural areas. Rather, the governor tells EU, that is European Union. Terrorists abduct 8 church worshippers in Kwara. That story is on page 7 of leadership newspaper. And on the business boss of leadership, 8 days to go. 33 banks beat CBN recapitalization deadline with 6.5 trillion naira capital base. 8 days to go. 33 banks beat CBN recapitalization deadline with 6.5 trillion naira capital base. And the stories are top the masthead of leadership. Kwankwaso host Makinde Obi Dixon in Kano. Wike-backed PDP accuses Turaki of plot to stop Abuja National Convention. That story is on page 32 of leadership. From the cover of leadership, we swiftly and briskly move to page 3 of the paper where we have our stand. The second page we always review on this program. Today's stand is on port tariff, resolve issues through due process. Port tariff, resolve issues through due process. Today's stand in leadership. From our stand, we move over to the back page of the paper where we have Monday column with Dakuko side. Today's column is on Meduguri and the value of human life, writing on the bomb blast that took place recently in the country with so many fatalities and casualties. Medjugorje and the value of human life. Today's Monday column with Dakuku side. The quote says the true measure of how a state values human life is not in its condolences but in its preparedness. The March 16 bombings were a terrorist crime, but they were also an indictment of a political order that too often responds to the deaths of ordinary people with language faster than transformation. Before we leave the back page, we visit Ghana Must Go. Tinubu's campaign team says Tinubu is fixing Nigeria. That is the campaign team news. And of course, Ghana Must Go is replying them with a response, adequate response, with 24-hour power supply. And of course, don't forget that during his campaign period, 2022, President Bola Tinubu says if he doesn't bring Nigerians light, they should not vote for him for 2nd time. Of course, that's what Ghana Must Go is reminding his campaign team. It's on that note we conclude review of Leadership newspaper. Don't forget to log into the website of Leadership, www.leadership.ng, for more stories, and don't also forget to follow Leadership on our social media handles. We head up to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is Vanguard, still a developing story, Middle East war. Vanguard says after 6-month break, food inflation resumes. Sorry, no, this is not it. We move ahead to the okay, so we move ahead to our sister publication inside Leadership, and that is National Economy. National Economy is a weekly business newspaper inserts in Leadership newspaper. And on business, the cover of National Economy, what a potential CBN interest rate cut means for investor appetite. What a potential CBN interest rate cut means for investor appetite. This week's headline story prints on National Economy, what a potential CBN interest rate cut means for investor appetite. Still on National Economy, federal government accelerates talks on $20 billion Nigeria-Europe gas corridor. Nigeria attracts $2.6 billion foreign investment in mining sector. Nigeria attracts $2.6 billion foreign investment in mining sector. Nigerian Labour Congress rejects 6 trillion naira power bailout, pushes structural reforms. Another leading story on the cover of National Economy this Monday. For more, don't forget to log in to the website of National Economy for continuation of these stories. National Economy, www.nationaleconomy.com. From National Economy, we move ahead. Let's go to we move ahead to the next paper we have on and line up today. Okay, sorry. I think it's on that note we conclude review of newspapers headlines today on the program Inside Nigeria. Don't forget to log. They are old ones. Therefore, we'll take a break. By the time we come back, on this note, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll have more papers for review. Don't go away. Stay tuned. There you take the old papers. back. Sorry, we had a mix up there when we were reviewing papers. We're back to a newspaper review on your program, your breakfast show on Leadership Television inside Nigeria. Of course, we have the next paper for review on this show, and that is Daily Independent. Daily Independent is still on Middle East crisis. It said oil price surge may reverse fragile gains in price stability. Middle East crisis, oil price surge may reverse fragile gains in price stability. Leading story just like leadership on the developing story in the Middle East. Governors push legislative overhaul to back state policing initiative. Second leading story on today's Daily Independent newspaper. Tinubu asks Macron for equipment to tackle insecurity. Governors push legislative overhaul to back state policing initiative. And we also have other stories gracing the cover of Daily Independent this Monday, March 23, 2026. Failure to zone ADC ticket to South. We hand Tinubu re-election. Page 7, that's where the continuation of the story is. Missing 210 trillion naira. Serap gives Akpabio 7 days to name involved officials. Article slams federal government over renewed OPA 245 legal tussle. ADC described Nigeria's 746 million pounds part with UK as Mugu in quote deal. Says Nigeria taking loans to fund British economy. That story is on page 7 of Daily Independent. Of course, that loan or that part has been received with mixed feelings, with a generating controversy across Nigerians, across section of Nigerians over what that 746 million pounds part with UK deal actually means. 2027 APC mortar fear of PDP, Makinde's rising profile, CP PDP. And still on Daily Independent, we have stories about the masthead NLC 6 merger of petroleum power ministries to call blackout. Once federal government against 6 trillion naira bailout for Genco's discos. And lastly, on the cover of Daily Independent, Nigerian gains $2.6 billion mining FDI as Alake advocates regional energy hubs. That also brings to a close review of front headline stories on Daily Independent this Monday. For more, log into the website of Daily Independent. We head up to the next paper we have on our lineup this Monday, and that is this day. This day says Tinubu, Nigeria in talks with UK, France for support in fight against insecurity. Says government intensifying efforts to tackle scourge. Once Middle East crisis may worsen inflation, reduce purchasing power, assures Nigerians his government will continue to help the vulnerable. The story runs on page 5 of this day. Tinubu, Nigeria in talks with UK, France for support in fight against insecurity. And of course, we're also in collaboration with the United States of America. The president also went on a state visit to Turkey recently, and now is France for collaboration in fight against insecurity. The story continues on page 5 of this day newspaper. We also have President Bola Tinubu in picture with all the governors during the Ramadan festive period in Lagos. It was also in Leadership newspaper. It was also in the paper before it that we reviewed, Daily Independent, and now it's also a cover picture in this day. Ozoro sexual assault. I watched the horrific viral footage, says First Lady. That story is on page 12 of this day newspaper. Ozoro sexual assault. And the police in Delta says they have arrested 15 suspects so far. The First Lady says, I watched the horrific viral footage. And going towards the masthead of this day, Makinde, any PDP member with Wike is enemy of democracy. Declares INEC judiciary APC government behind FCT minister's camp. Akpoti Udwanga laments loss of 34 PDP senators, urges defectors to return to party. Bala Mohammed insists no issue is irreconcilable. Wike's faction explains why reconciliation is unlikely. Inaugurates convention committee. These are kickers to the second leading story on today's This Day newspaper. Makinde, any PDP member with Wike is enemy of democracy. We move above the masthead of this day. Inflation targeting regime will improve transparency, accountability, credibility of monetary policy, says CBN. Back Central Bank of the Year award in global recognition of reform efforts. US pushes hardline African policy. Tinubu's diplomacy diplomacy faces questions. U.S. pushes hardline Africa policy. Tinubu's diplomacy faces questions. That story runs on page 7 of this day newspaper. And don't forget to log into the website of this day for continuation of these headline stories as we draw the curtain on the review. We move ahead to the last paper we have on our lineup this Monday, and that is Vanguard. Vanguard is on state police. Governor split as insecurity worsens nationwide. State police, governor split as insecurity worsens nationwide. Most states back move, others one of abuse, repression. North divided. Kaduna, Plateau, Kano, Taraba set pace. Tinubu can't create it by fiat. Afenifere. Lawmakers, governors face crucial test. We address Nigerian concerns. Senate. These are kickers to the leading story on today's Vanguard newspaper on state police. However, governors split as insecurity worsens nationwide. However, some papers have it that a situation as it was a unanimous decision by governors to back police, but we are having on Vanguard that governors actually is not on the same narrative. US-Iran encounter threats over Strait of Hormuz. That story is on page 12 of Vanguard. Black House NSC wants urgent overhaul of power sector. Six single energy ministry insist on no bailout for Genco discos as power crisis deepens. UK expands detention capacity to speed up deportations. Ozoro Festival assault. Remi Tinubu, Ezekwe Sili, NAPTIP orders demand justice. And atop the masthead of Vanguard, public-private sector leaders set to play lead roles in Vanguard Economic Summit. From Isaiah to honor Tinubu's democratic journey and Nigeria's reform moment. And lastly, on the cover of Vanguard APC convention, aspirants cry for alleged hoarding of nomination forms. And that also concludes review of front headline stories on Vanguard this Monday. For more, log into the website of Vanguard newspaper. Well, viewers, all too soon, we've concluded review of front selected national newspapers for review on today's show. Don't forget to log into the website of Leadership. Don't also forget to follow us on other social media handles for continuation of more news and programming. My name is Winifred Webo. Thanks for joining us.